Sci-Fi.
Yo, dude.
Hey, man.
It's the guys.
What's up?
What's up?
Did you
How
just
guys
buy
you
that
doing,
plant
man?
to put that in for the shot?
Did I buy the plant? Yeah, this is a mostly dead place. And I was like, I need to put something verdant in the background. They're not gonna
I
like,
don't want to look like I'm in prison.
yeah. Oh, I didn't bring a plant last time, so making up for it now.
So what's new with you? I didn't know you made Sundance, dude. That's amazing. I mean, it was 5
Thanks.
years ago at this point, but I just found out about it.
I did. Thanks in part to Willy. Willy lent his body for the performance in the beginning of it.
What, really?
There's
Was
a
it?
yeah. I will say that Danny Jelinek says that the only reason it got into the Sundance was the first 20 seconds of this, and Willy is the main bit of the first 20 seconds. So it's like even though he's a dead body, it's a very funny, jarring dead body.
It's about like kind of a haunted house, right?
Yeah, it was this. Yeah, we because I just moved into this house in Echo Park and we still didn't have furniture, and then so it was
Love
like
that. Take advantage of it. Yeah.
I was like, before we fill this with, cheap mid-century modern furniture, let's see what we can shoot. And it was kind of interesting because it's like, because it was an old house, but the way it was designed was like you could kind of from the front door you could look through and see seven rooms into the back of the house, and so you could kind of have people staggered in different rooms but not talking to each other, and that was kind of funny. So it's like it lent itself to visual depth and stuff like that.
I was watching a show called Your Honor with Bryan Cranston. Do you guys watch that?
I have not.
Uh-uh.
I think it was in Baltimore, Maryland, or DC or something. And it sounds like I just never had heard this description before of a house called a shotgun house, where you
Oh
can
yeah.
basically see from the front to the back. So if you could fire a shotgun, you could like hit the end.
Yeah, and I think
Was it kind of like that?
it's like it was kind of like that. It was like a bungalow, but yeah, the left side of it was almost designed like a shotgun house. Or I think a shotgun house, I don't know for sure, but I think they're basically just super narrow, and all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
rooms
like
are
one of
like
those
one behind the
bars.
other. Yeah, yeah.
Right. What
But
where are you from originally?
I'm from Virginia originally,
Oh,
from
so you would know if there's such a thing as a shotgun house. Like, is
yeah,
that
it's
something you've heard
definitely
before?
it's like a deep South thing. Like they have them up in like Virginia and North Carolina, which is where I've spent most of my time. But I think that's more like I don't want to talk out of school. I don't want to Google that
It
because now
felt,
I'm
but
curious.
it did feel like a southern thing. But then I was like, well, he's a judge. I'm sure that the city is like a fourth character or whatever, and I just missed that point. But like, it's not bad. His son, he's a judge, and his son accidentally kills someone. That's the premise.
Gotcha.
Word.
And
Yeah,
there's mafia guys. It's pretty cool.
it was the most popular style of house in the southern United States from the end of the Civil War, 1861-65, through the 1920s. I don't know why that would be the most popular style. It's because it's interesting because it's like
Easy to
from the
build.
front, yeah, probably easy
Yeah.
to build and just yeah. You could probably fit a bunch of them onto like one instead of having a wide house. You could like make the most of, uh, yeah. You could stack houses next to each other, I guess.
Yeah, just like all these, just make one type of house and sit them all next to each other. You know
Yeah.
exactly how big
I
it
was
needs to be.
one of my friends doing real estate in Colorado Springs, and he was showing off his son that did a write up who's getting into real estate also of this property. The thing that weirded me out was it was a big property with just a duplex trailer on it with a huge driveway. And I'm
Mm.
like, I grew up in a mobile home, and when I was a senior in high school, we moved into the same place. We just got a new trailer. So they pulled out the old one, put a duplex in, and it had drywall on it, so it felt like a house. but
Yeah.
them driving it over, all the walls cracked because it like
Yeah.
they weren't meant to. Drywall wasn't meant to drive around town.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But
This was
it's
in
funny.
Denver, or where was this?
Just about an hour north of Denver, Loveland,
Got it.
and so it's just funny to look at this huge plot of land with just a trailer on it. I'm like, dude, like just build a garage. That would take nothing to build just a wooden garage. It doesn't even need to
Yeah.
be. They've got weather, hail, and snow. You just have a trailer with a huge parking lot spot and a big dirt lot. I'm just like,
Yeah.
who the fuck decided that? It's cheap.
I got on this weird track where I've never been someone who's had a lot of money, but I had a brief moment in I had a brief string of jobs where it was like, I had a few thousand in the
It's
bank
some
and I'm like,
savings,
oh,
yeah.
I could do something with this. And me and Christian Klein, we talked about like a friend of ours had gotten some land out in Wonder Valley in Joshua Tree because it was
Yeah, I thought about it too. It
there
was like 2,000
there
for
was like a lot of
cheap.
repossessed land that was like you get 5 acres for $5,000. So it's like land was literally going.
Repossessed because it's like meth labs or something that they took over.
I think so, or it was just
Yeah.
because there were large swaths of land and they were just kind of subdividing them into 5 acre lots
They're
that you
not
get for five
connected
thousand.
to water or electricity or normally or like
Yeah.
roads, but
Yeah,
and
and
it's
so
hard because you get
that's what you have to
squatters and
pay for, and that's like it's like yeah, you have the land for 5,000, whatever, but then you have to pay 50 or 60 to just
yeah,
get
I thought about
the
doing that,
hookup.
getting a little something that you can pull out there and sleep in.
I think Karen Clancy did that. I don't know if you know them, but the just
Is that Tom Clancy's daughter?
no, it's just someone in the 101-ish circles somewhere. But yeah, I don't know. I know a couple people that have done the buy a little bit of land out in Joshua Tree and then put a trailer on it and then Airbnb that out and then eventually the idea is that it pays for itself. But yeah, I don't know. But I haven't checked in with
What did
anyone
you
on.
end up doing? Did you not end up pulling the trigger on that stuff?
No, I think I made a short instead.
Right? It's
Oh, with
pretty
your
hard
money?
because
Yeah.
you're
Yeah, good
definitely
call.
gonna have people out there on your property,
I
Like,
listen. I'm not joking. I would. I feel like spending money to make it short is better than having an Airbnb in fucking Wonder Valley or whatever you call it.
Yeah. No, it maybe. This one was. I think this is like one. Like if you look back, I wonder what the percentage is looking back on like all the shorts and stuff I've made. Like how many of them I would say were like worth it or like led to some other positive thing in my life.
Right.
Whether it was money or a festival or meeting people or that kind of thing. But I mean,
Well,
I don't.
what's your average budget for a short? And then like what like list their success rate up until currently. Like are you making something now?
I don't have a short that I'm planning right now, but I submitted something to the Vimeo film grant just like just to have something in there, but we'll see. I mean,
See,
typically
that's the stuff that I don't even know about that.
I don't know
I
about that stuff
know.
either. The word grant freaks me out a little bit because then I'm
Oh
like,
no,
oh, and now
no.
I have to answer to somebody.
No,
And
it just
I
means free money, dude. It just
yeah,
means
oh,
free
okay.
money.
Didn't work
I-
out. We didn't make it. Didn't work out.
Sorry, sue us.
But
TikTok video. Here you go. This is what we made.
yeah, I mean the most well last year I made a short with Andre Highland. I don't know if you know who that is
Yeah.
I know
and
the
some people.
name.
Yeah, he does this character Jesse Miller talk show. He's a very funny guy.
Huh.
But we made a short on a farm and so we had to rent out the farm for like a day and a half and so that was I think that was maybe like a $3,000 short film, and that's probably the most expensive I've made. Because
Okay, next time you need to rent out a farm. I just got back from Florida. My aunt lives on a defunct farm, and it's just like abandoned buildings everywhere. So just get like a $500 plane ticket out there. I'll give you the address.
yeah, that's the thing. If on especially in the southeast where it's just kind of like not much film happens around them, like people just are just more open to like filming stuff on their land and aren't like my sister filmed a music video at this like old life-saving station in the Outer Banks, and she's a musician. I don't know. We can go down a deep dive on that if you want. But she filmed this music video, basically renting out. Think of it as a lighthouse or a lighthouse, basically. She didn't have to rent it. They did it for free because they were like, "Oh, you want to film here?" And they
A
just
whole lighthouse?
it's called a life-saving station. So essentially it's like kind of living quarters, but like it used to be like kind of like a lighthouse.
I've seen Ozark. Is there anything in there that I could
Well,
is that Outer Banks?
the Outer Banks, the Outer Banks is all right.
It's just swamp, right? It's just swamp stuff.
So the east coast of North Carolina, if you look at it on a map, it's actually a thin ribbon of barrier islands that are like about less than a mile thick all the way down. And so if you've heard of things like Hatteras or Kitty Hawk or Nag's Head, those are kind of, or Kill Devil Hills, those are the famous places. So it literally this thin barrier islands, they extend out to the ocean, and if you look at satellite images of it, you're like, how is this not talked about more often? Because it's just very bizarre how thin they are and how far out from the mainland they are. It just
Is there a road that goes to it?
Yeah,
road out to it.
there's a road that goes down it, and then but for some parts of it, like if you go to Ocracoke, you have to go by ferry typically, but you could drive to it. But
I believe it's pronounced Ocracoke.
Ocracoke, yeah.
Have you ever been on that road that drives over the ocean? It's just like a bridge. I think it was in a Mission Impossible movie, but it's just like a long bridge sitting over the ocean.
In North Carolina or Virginia?
I don't know where it's at. I feel like it's probably off of Florida, but
I think I think someone was telling me the longest bridge over water is somewhere down there, like Alabama. I think
the longest bridge tunnel is actually in Virginia, which is the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. It goes all the way across Chesapeake Bay Bridge, and I think I don't want to talk out of my.
It's got to be over. It's got to be over 2 miles.
Oh yeah, it's
which is so weirdly scary to go through.
It is 17.6 miles.
Are you fucking kidding me? What?
So it goes above water, goes underwater, goes above water, goes underwater.
Oh, it's like a slide. It's like a water slide. That's fun.
Yeah, it takes a while to get across the whole thing, but it is like it is freaky when you're in the tunnel part of it. You're like, I am out here. Like
wait, it's a tunnel and it's underwater?
It's a bridge tunnel. So the tunnel goes underwater, and then it'll come up and then be an above water bridge and then go back under. It's
off,
for 17.
That sounds like
17.6 miles. Yeah, in Chesapeake Bay.
Well, so speaking of like growing up out there, and you made a short about haunted houses and stuff like that. Is it haunted out there? Did you have any ghost stories out there?
I have tons of ghost stories. I'm like.
Have you told them to us before? You've done the show before. I
haven't. I've done this before, but we
talked about the first. I mean, we first talked settlers.
About me. Yeah, we talked about the Lost Colony in the Outer Banks, and then we talked about that grew up Quaker. We talked about that too.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. I don't remember that. Wow.
Yeah, I'm glad you don't, because my memory of it, I didn't even listen to it, but if I listened back to it, my memory of it was I was like I had a bunch of notes, and I was like, I'm just trying to keep this on track and get all the information out. You know, I wasn't in the conversation mode of it.
But Quakers have that thing where you go and you like, it's almost the Costanza, like you bring up your gripes or whatever, right? Like. Isn't that kind of the same thing?
You can. I mean, the cons.
You go to the town hall and you're like, I don't like this about people, and then they're like, okay, you've said your piece, right? Isn't there a Quaker thing like that?
The main concept is that they were really quick. They don't believe in ministers. They came around in the 1600s, so their big crazy thing was like, we don't believe in ministers. We're all ministers. So instead of having pews facing forward, they have 4 sides of pews facing each other, and you
Right.
sit in silence for an hour, and if you want to stand up and say something, you feel moved by the light or God or whatever you want to speak out some
And
truth.
it's like, Jim stole my leaf blower.
That would be yours, but I think most people's are like, I was they tend to be like very,
I had an epiphany when I
like
when my
the
mouse
last
died.
the last one I remember was like a woman talking about like I write to this prisoner in jail and I often don't understand what he's saying back to me. I think he's mentally ill, but we did happen on a point of connection, and then she told a story about like the point of connection they reached through her prison pen pal.
And then it was good because of God in some way.
I don't remember. No, it's more
It
like
was bad because of God. I
Yeah, it
just
was
don't
bad because
understand God now because I can't talk to this crazy man in prison. Why won't God open up the lines of communication for me?
I think the main thing of Quakerism is they believe that everybody has a part of God inside of them, and so that's why everyone gets a chance to stand up and say something if they feel like God is speaking through them. And
Hey,
so
by the way,
uh,
I'm sorry not to cut you off,
no,
but
please.
it just reminded
This
me
just
of
in.
I didn't know about this movie called The Neighborhood Watch with the guy who's in everything now, the Quaid, the little Nepo Quaid,
Is
Jack
it
Quaid.
Jack Quaid?
Jack Quaid.
Hmm.
And I think Negan from Walking Dead, Negan, he's got the baseball bat called Lucy or something, and he's like, "I'll
Uh,
crack your skulls."
it's
But
it's been a
anyway,
while since
it's
I
really
watched.
good. Well, yeah, don't watch Walking Dead. But
Uh,
I think it's called The Neighborhood Watch, and it's really good. It's about like they never say he's schizophrenic, but like he's got stuff going on, and like it's cool. It's really good.
Wouldn't it be
I watched it
great?
the other night.
Wouldn't it be great instead of diagnosing people with schizophrenia, we just say they've got stuff going on.
Yeah, you just have to find the right job for them. And neighborhood watch for someone with
He's
schizophrenia is actually pretty good.
he's
Oh,
got
right.
stuff going on. Some of it you can't see,
That's
but
why he's
yeah.
perfect to watch our neighborhood. He's the most paranoid, delusional man.
He sees everything, even stuff that's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us your best ghost story then.
All right. My best ghost story is, let me think. Well, here's one. So I used to go to a summer camp in Virginia called Camp Hanover, and it was a good portion of the summer camp was also shared what was a lot of land that was the battleground for Cold Harbor, which was a battle in the Civil War, which was one of the bloodiest battles. The famous statistic from it is that 7,000 people died in the first 20 minutes.
Wow.
Which sounds like nothing to us now, but if you imagine back then where it's all like people getting stabbed and,
Most
lead
towns didn't
bullets
have
and
7,000 people. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's just brutal. It's so heartbreaking. But so the on a corner of this, there was a trail that went through our camp that was also a camp that was used both by the Union and the Confederates as a trail in and out of Cold Harbor. And so one side would hang, the dead of the other side, like over the trail and everything. Anyway, so this trail still goes through Camp Hanover. And there's lots of ghost stories in Camp Hanover, but there was one set of cabins that was right by the trail, and they had the most ghost stories. One of them was that a counselor woke up in the middle of the night, and they hear this banging sound on the outside of the cabin. And so they open their eyes, they look around, and they don't see anything outside of the windows of the cabins. They go back to sleep, and then a few seconds later, the banging sound returns. So they wake up and they stand up and they go outside looking for the source of the banging sound. And they walk all around the cabin and they see nothing. And then they keep hearing it, so they do a second round. And on their second round, they flash their flashlight and they see a one-armed Confederate soldier just slamming itself against the side of the cabin. And then it turned and looked at them, and then it disappeared.
Wow.
When that story was told to me and I was a counselor at camp, that scared the shit out of me.
Did you see anything like that?
I can't say that I did.
Do you
I
think that? Do
thought
you
I
think that
saw
the guy
something.
was just like, my arm hurts so much? Maybe if I smash my face against the wall, I'll stop thinking about my arm. That
I
would be awful if like you're a ghost, but like your wound hurts forever.
You know how like when your arm gets cut off and you have the phantom limb feeling,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, well,
yeah.
maybe when you die you have phantom life. It's like just misses living so much.
I researched a little bit of this and I was trying to look for what the possible origins for a story like this are, but
Wait, let's jump into it then.
okay.
What's the like? I don't care about the WoW scale that much.
Okay.
We could do it real fast. WoW scale.
Are you a Wade or are you a Willy?
Do you believe in aliens?
Maybe.
Do you believe in Bigfoot?
Not really.
Was 9/11 an inside job?
Probably not.
What about the multiverse? Do you believe that that could be a possibility?
That seems the most plausible of the things. Yeah. But
Ghosts?
I don't know. Ghosts, yes, but only in specific ways. Like the idea that like energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So maybe some sort of energy or whatever is left behind, and that manifests sometimes in some kind of like, you might get a flash of
Like listen, forgive me because I'm Gen X and I don't play by the rules, but like they would be like retarded, right? Just like ghosts who are retarded because they don't have all of the energy. They're missing one chromosome of energy.
Yeah, sure. They're missing one or it's just there's yeah,
So ghosts, every ghost that exists is just a part of a person. And they can't
yeah.
function anymore. They're just like, this is what I remember how to do. I remember to sit in this chair and look at this window.
I think I believe more in R word ghosts than I do in like ghosts that like will show up to tell you something bad is about to happen to
conscious
you.
that they're conscious and making choices.
Yeah,
I don't buy that stuff. Like I would say like I think psychics and mediums I are the most exploitive people in the world, and I really
Oh, sure. Well, I think the most
such
exploitive are CEOs, but yeah,
yeah.
psychics and mediums. We go to put
But
it
at
in
least
they're
at
taking their
least they kind of do
$20
it
an
to your
hour.
face. It's that's true. I guess maybe I need to reorient my triage of evil, but I do really hate the concept of psychics. It really bothers me. I mean, as long as they're not hurting anyone, but I hate the thing of like, I've heard multiple stories of people like just people with a lot of money, like their psychic become, the psychic
they
sees them
become
as a
it's like,
payday and they become dependent on the psychic.
yeah.
It's like, what was that? Oh God, what was the?
But also, it's kind of like good for you, fleecing that rich idiot. If that rich idiot is going to give you like $1,000 a week just to be there, like what were they called, soothsayers, or like back in the day,
Yeah.
I just say like take it away from rich people any way you can, but leave the elderly alone.
Yeah. That's where I am. I think taking advantage of the elderly is awful, but I don't know. Anyway, so that's my scale. That's my where I am on the scale of I'm mostly skeptic with a little bit of hope that some things exist, but I tend to go towards skepticism more than.
But Willy was telling me that you're kind of on his side with this one, and I don't even know what we're talking about. What is this? What are we talking about?
All right.
Are we talking about ghosts in some way?
Yeah, we're talking about ghosts, and so we were originally when I talked to Willie, we were going to talk about Civil War ghosts because I grew up in a place where there's a lot of Civil War ghosts and Civil War stories. And then the more research I was doing into it, I feel like I may have stumbled into a thing where someday I'm going to have to write a book about all of this. But I have a thesis that I'm gonna read this out to you. You tell me what you think about it. Essentially, I believe that ghost stories, whether you believe them or not, believe in ghosts or not, I think many ghost story archetypes transcend cultural boundaries, often traveling through time and migration to take root in new places. And the kinds of ghost stories told in a region can reveal its buried histories, the cultural lineage of its people, and the specific fears and preoccupations that shape collective memory. So when someone witnesses something not really easily explained, whatever specific explanation they fill in the twilight zone gap of, what they know and what they don't, whatever they fill that with, whether it's ghosts or demons or vampires, whatever, it largely reveals a lot about that person and their belief system and their cultural background and their fears more than maybe even more than the reality of whatever it was.
Like they're projecting something, or it's like,
Yeah.
So wait, is this based on the person seeing it?
I'll give you an example. So when you think about ghost story archetypes, the easiest example is like the woman in white. That is in almost every culture. There is a woman in white. So like when I went to Camp Hanover, the ghost story that happened was there was an old house that was on the campsite, and this woman in the 1800s, she left to go to the market, and she left her toddlers to fend for themselves in the house. And then when she returned, the house had burned down. And then now, if you were now in the woods at night, if you see a light wandering around, you know that that's the woman in white who wanders around the camp lake, looking for her lost children.
Yeah, and you've heard the story, and I'm gonna piggyback on what you're saying and go like, one thing that always shocked me that I had heard about the First Nations people the first time modern boat ever came over, let's say Columbus, whatever. Somebody was saying they may not have been able to see the boats because they'd never seen them before. They wouldn't know what to think of them. And so like, sure, they would see it, but it'd be out there on the ocean. Their brains would almost define what they were looking at before they see it. So it wouldn't be a boat. It would be something tied into their belief set. Oh, it's a god. Oh, it's the god of the ocean.
It's something I've heard a lot about. I forget which specific Native American tribe it is, but there's one tribe that would talk about, I think it was in the Southwest, where they believed in a race of giants that would paddle canoes in the sky. And if you looked up, you could see the bottom of their canoes. And people have pointed to that as evidence of UFOs, of like, oh, even the Native Americans saw UFOs, because they didn't know how to describe a UFO other than that's the bottom of a canoe in the sky.
Yeah.
Could it have been a cloud? Were they used to clouds? Did they know about clouds?
Were they used to clouds? I don't know if anyone ever gets used to clouds. It's just
They're an enigma, man. They're there 1 minute and then they're gone. Sometimes they look like a dog and then they change into your ex.
Yep.
I do like the idea of everything paranormal is defined by the culture that you grew up in.
Exactly.
It's like a prism, right? Like you're looking through, you're kind of like, yeah, something weird could have happened, but the reports that we're getting are all going to be skewed because of what people know and how to describe it.
Yeah, it's referencing even just like things that might tap into a fear of your culture or something. So like another example of like a lady in the lake thing, that was my localized version in our summer camp in Virginia. But when you're out here in the Southwest, the one you hear about a lot is La Llorona, which is the Mexican legend, but also told in other places in Central South America, which is the woman who, in a moment of rage or despair, often due to betrayal by a lover, drowns her children in a river and, overcome with grief, kills herself. And then so she's condemned to wander the earth for eternity, and her ghost is said to weep while searching for her lost children, often near bodies of water. And so and then I had a roommate out here who told me too that like when she was growing up, La Llorona was like either it was like a woman in white who was walking alongside a road, or that you shouldn't pick up, or a woman in white who's walking alongside a body of water. But then also, if you left, she said her parents would tell her if she left the faucet dripping, that they'd be like, no, you have to close the faucet all the way, otherwise La Llorona can come get you. Like she could shapeshift through water or something.
A lot of the Filipino lore, sure, it's about infidelity. They have monsters too out there, like like giant snakes and weird animals that will eat your children if they get outside.
Here's
Yeah.
my
But,
question about that before you get into it. What was the Philippine culture before Christianity?
Before white
came and
people?
fucking yeah.
Well, do you count Spain as white people?
Yeah,
Yes, right?
sorry, that
yeah,
was
yeah,
lumping
yeah,
that in
for
there, yeah.
sure.
Because
the Spanish are like the worst white people.
yeah, totally. Like the
Just
Spaniards
kidding. It's the
brought
English. We all know
the
it's the English.
Spaniards brought Catholicism over there, and they're just really overly.
Do you
Catholic.
think that had a part to it? Because it's like infidelity and like shit that like I don't know if infidelity needs to be taught. Like, you know how the 10 Commandments are like, yeah, duh. Like, I'm not gonna do any of that shit. I know that I shouldn't kill a person, but do I have to be taught not to cheat on a woman if my
Your
like
religion,
culture?
yeah, and culture.
Well, I think,
However,
I think maybe that's what I'm tapping into of like what ghost stories serve as, which is almost like cautionary tales of how to not become a wandering spirit. Like
right.
I don't know enough, but I know that like in Vietnam, a way that the American soldiers would really screw with the Viet Cong is they would play recordings that would sound like ghosts of fallen comrades, because there's a huge thing in their belief system that if you died improperly or weren't buried the right way, that you would wander forever. And so it's like it was deployed as a tactic to mess with the enemy's mind, these recordings that they would just blast out in the woods.
Right, and that just really
it's a pretty funny thing to do.
Yeah, right. I wanted to add though that my closing of the whole reason why I brought up this Filipino shit is because the Philippines doesn't recognize divorce. You're not allowed to get a divorce.
Wow.
And so like my mom's green card's fucked up because she got remarried and has a new name, and the Philippines is like, well, we can't issue you a new name. You got married and this is your name.
Wow.
And so like her passport doesn't match her ID. And
so they took the Catholicism to heart. Like,
yeah. And it's like, dude, this is law. 15 years of her trying to change her green card might get her deported. I mean, crazy times.
Wow. I was going to say final note on La Llorona. I also read somewhere that the idea of this woman who's killed her children or has betrayed her children, now she's wandering forever, might also be based on Doña Marina, who was Hernan Cortez's enslaved native wife. And so Hernan Cortez, as he was conquering South America, he would use his enslaved wife to translate. And so people point to her as like a complex figure of, whether she was a traitor or a betrayer or was, or if she didn't have a choice or whatever. But I read somewhere that also the idea of La Llorona is sometimes tied to this figure of like a figure of betrayal that is now forced to wander, searching for her children that she betrayed. I also look back, and apparently in Greek mythology, there was Medea. There was a Greek tragedy called Medea, where it's the story
Don't
of the
tell
betrayed
Tyler Perry
wife.
this. It's gonna ruin his
but
franchise.
it's his inspiration.
Medea kills her children. Yeah, she was.
Waga. Doesn't she talk? She talks like funny, right? She's like waga. You're like, Medea, can you make me a Pop-Tart? And she's like, Pata? What's a Pata? Right? That's Medea.
Maybe I'm hard pressed to remember if I've seen any Medeas outside of a trailer.
I watched one full Medea movie just to make a 2-minute why I got the lowest points in fantasy football one year. I named my team after Medea, so I had to watch. It was like, dude, I don't even know which one. There was a bunch of people in our house. I don't know. Witness protection, maybe.
I feel like I saw part of Medea go. Does she go to jail? Is that?
I don't know. I don't think so. Does she? Medea goes to jail in witness protection? Anyway.
I feel like I remember seeing her in an orange jumpsuit at some point, but
I'm
wondering if I'm confusing her and Ernest.
Well, Ernest definitely went to jail.
Ernest went to jail for sure.
But Ernest has done it all.
Ernest did everything.
I wish he was still alive, man. Can you imagine Ernest fights a ghost? They never did a ghost thing with Ernest.
Ernest would have a
Scared
show
straight
on Netflix. Is that the Halloween one?
Must be.
I know he went to camp. I know he sold orange juice.
He saved Christmas, I think, once.
Definitely saved Christmas.
Did he save Hanukkah?
I don't know that. Come on, no.
I thought he was an all sides guy. But,
I want to looking into some of this stuff and realizing that the most haunted place in America is Gettysburg. You say Gettys or Geddes? Gettys?
I say Gettys.
Gettysburg. Yeah, that's
Did
one
you say
of them.
Gettysburg? Gettysburg?
I don't know. I just have never. I don't really hear people
I feel
say.
like, yeah, I feel like there's always a running list of southern cities claiming to be the most haunted place in the U.S. That there's and then you'll hear like Salem, Massachusetts, and you're like, well, yeah, of course that's haunted too, I guess.
Yeah, because you guys were dicks.
But you think, yeah, exactly. That's the whole. That's what I was leading to. Is like, okay, well, in our current history, our current version of what we shape our paranormal stories with, definitely has something to do with not being buried properly. And this probably stems from the early years more than now, because they didn't have cremation when ghost stories were being made.
Yeah.
But not being buried properly, dying too quickly is always a thing. It's like, oh, they died without knowing it. It wasn't like they were part of the death process. Their body didn't accept the old age. And if you hear about people dying in old age, it's like at some point they know that their body's shutting down, which is a weird thing to have to experience. Anyways.
Can you imagine? I cannot wait for that liberation of just knowing. Oh, I'm looking forward to it so much.
I know. I'm
just
like, is this
laying in bed
right now?
and just like,
my arm? What the heck? What is this?
I never have to do this again. I don't have to worry about anything again. Oh, what a dream. I just visited 2 very elderly people, and I'm like, wow. If you can get over the fear of that end of times kind of thing, it must be just kind of the best,
Yeah.
Outside of like hurting all the time and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, I don't know how y'all feel about it. I always feel like I'm switching between, like, sometimes I feel my age, but maybe that's like 10% of the time. And then it's like half the time I feel like I'm 14 and the other half of me feels like I'm 80. Like there's
really,
like
14? I feel like I'm like 25 sometimes. I don't think I ever feel like I'm 14. I'm just confused about girls and stuff.
Maybe the 14 thing is like the just walking into a place and like not knowing it, or like being
the social
anxious. The social anxiety that comes with teenage years.
Oh, that's my whole life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that doesn't really go away for me either. But it's like flip-flopping between that and just feeling like I don't want to talk to anyone today. I just want to be at home and reading a book or something.
Yeah, old age. You get that for like 10 years.
It sneaks up on you.
It's going to be amazing.
That's why crosswords were a thing. It's like nobody cared about doing the crossword. It's just like, I'm busy.
Yeah. I love that.
Well, he's doing his crossword.
No. What do you love?
Oh no, I mean, I also fantasize about the day of like, there's always like a crotchety old man character that, that the kids are all scared of, but then eventually they befriend him, kind of thing. Like,
yeah, he's got a heart of gold. Yeah,
I want that exact thing to happen.
Scary German guy made his cake, Monster Squad.
But it's like,
it's going to be harder for us to be scary because we don't have accents, unless Skibbity Toilet takes off, and then we just don't know. We don't know what Ohio means.
I think the scariest thing about Scary German Guy for Monster Squad is that he had a whole cake just sitting at his house.
Well, this is kind of a deep pull. I mean, we all should know Monster Squad, but I don't know it that well.
I actually don't know it either, and I was pretending I did.
Well, it was kind of like
it's just me like bragging that I'm 2 years younger than you. And
well, for me, Monster Squad, I knew I was too old for, and I knew they were trying to make a Goonies, and so it's kind of like cheesy.
Okay, never mind. I remember Monster Squad.
And it was made for a younger audience than me, but I still liked it, even though I was like, you guys didn't really do a good job.
What? Go on.
Oh no, it was just a complete set. I have no bit here or anything. I just suddenly remembered. Remember Howie Mandel was in a movie that was called like Little Monsters or something
Yeah, Little
Monster.
Monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I remember is there was at some point where to create light, he put two ends of a phone cord together and it made a spark and that somehow saved the day.
I'll say this. That was the most confused I've ever been about Howie Mandel's career because I don't know why I knew who Howie Mandel was. Because this, you got to realize, growing up, he was just like a stand-up comedian who somehow got a lot of heat, and I don't know why. He was just around, and then he hosted that show or whatever, and that made him like years later he hosted. What did he host? Like the
Deal or No
briefcase
Deal.
show or something?
Suitcase.
Deal
Yeah,
or No
yeah.
Deal.
He was in a bunch of movies where they were trying to make him be a Robin Williams. He was in the movie Walk Like a Man, where he was a guy raised by wolves.
I remember the cover of that. I never watched it.
And then
That
he-
might be on the. Maybe I should watch that tonight.
I think
I
his
mean,
main
it's-
shtick was he would like put a rubber glove over his head
Exactly.
and do that
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
then
Oh, he
I
does that
remember he had
in that movie. Yeah.
but how I came across him was he had a kids show called Bobby's World.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I remember that was like one of the few.
I wonder if Bobby's World was first. Like, I just never understood why
No.
Howie Mandel was like this weird monster who was like blue and stuff. Like, you couldn't even see that it was.
He
Howie
did
Mandel.
wacky voices in his stand-up. So
That's what
Bobby's
it
World
was.
was a voice he would do on stage.
That guy must have amazing agents. Like, why Howie Mandel? Like, I still am confused.
I know.
Why Howie
I know.
Mandel? For 40 years, we've been
It's
dealing
like,
with Howie Mandel.
I'm just
sure
going
he's
like-
a nice guy.
Cocaine is his shtick, right? I mean,
Well, if he's trying to be a Robin Williams, then yeah, I mean that's his whole thing.
I don't know if he did cocaine, but he's just hyper guy.
Yeah, it was.
I don't think
it was
he
high
could-
energy. He walked so Dane Cook could run.
Oh my god! So now it's just a string of these guys. But like, can you imagine if we had Dane Cook for 40 years? Like, we have Howie Mandel for
If
40
we got
years.
Dane Cook for a kids show, Dane Cook hosting a
Yeah, if he hosted a show that got big, Dane Cook, and it's just like, well, this is just life now.
But then
I mean,
suddenly he's
give it another
bald
10
and-
years. Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. And
That
that's
was the
whole
weird
thing.
part too. It's like, oh, this is a completely different human being.
Right. It doesn't even look like the guy. Like, and now we all know that he's a germaphobe, and that's important somehow. I'm just like, why do I know this about Howie Mandel, man? I don't want to know anything about this guy.
Yeah, like, well, whatever. I fist bumped him, and I was like, "You're a germaphobe. You don't need to fist bump everybody."
Yeah, it seems almost worse. It's like because you have little hairs there that can catch on to.
I'm like, you
Germs,
wouldn't
I
have
guess.
shaken the whole room's hands, so why you fist bump?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Well, I think it's interesting that like if I'm a germaphobe, I shake people's hands and then I use the back of my hand to like touch my face to like wipe my snot
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. But now I'm fist bumping that on to everybody. So
Damn.
I think that backfired. Like, your move,
Yeah.
germaphobes. What are you going to do now? The elbow thing. Remember during COVID, you do the elbow thing to people. It was
Yeah.
never like it didn't take off, but I
It
did
was
a few
never
times.
like the bump was somehow fist bump was somehow accepted as like, oh, this is almost kind of like this is almost cool.
It's a connection.
Sanitary, yeah.
It's almost what
like-
cool people did, but like the elbow thing was always
the
like,
cool thing, yeah.
should we? Okay. fine. There was no other way that didn't happen any other way. No one was like,
That
"All right,
was like-
man."
Yeah,
trying to
no
be
one did.
cool
you can't
while
like cool.
being awkward.
Well, we need a rapper to like make elbow bumping cool somehow, and then we'll all know how to do it.
Yeah.
So, do you think that? But here's what I don't like about the Civil War soldier guys being
Oh, yeah.
ghosts.
All right.
If I die in battle, is that not the right? Is there not a more valiant way to die? Like, shouldn't that take your entire soul? Like, why would you be a ghost if you died in battle?
I don't know.
Regardless of
Like,
what you're
if you're
fighting
in
for.
the Civil War, if you're fighting in the Civil War, you know you have a better chance to die. So, like, are you not more prepared for death than like somebody who fell off a set of stairs?
I don't think
And
anyone's
don't give
ever-
me any of this
super
burial shit, man. I don't buy any of that shit because like in the history of the world, like there's been a lot more people not buried than buried, right?
No, but I mean, I think for me, I believe like maybe just like intensity of emotion or something where it's like, you have places, you have your old haunts in LA, like maybe there's like a bar you went to once where you had a bad date and you just can't even look at the bar the same way or something like that, or
Right.
like
And if I
but
died on that
on the
day,
most extreme level
I
of
died
like
on
If
that
you
day,
died
and then I
at
haunted
that
it.
Star Wars, that shitty Star Wars bar on Sunset,
if you died at Jay's
This
bar,
place? I love the ghost story that you told, because here is a ghost story where the ghost is aware of you.
Yeah.
There's so many where they're not, where it feels like, oh, this is something on repeat. I heard a couple stories of one of them, these soldiers were walking around a car, which happens a lot, but they like looked at the driver, and I'm like, this is fucking weird that what I think is some loop has an awareness to it, which is weird.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Teslas? I think it's Teslas. You just reminded me of this video that I saw where someone's driving. They know this place is like allegedly haunted or whatever. So they drive their Tesla through it. And Tesla has that screen where you can see like cars or whatever in front of you. And I guess there's people too. And so they're driving through this, it's completely abandoned. And there's all these people on the screen. They're like looking at their screen. There's all these people around the car on their screen.
That's cool.
Have you seen that? I mean,
that is cool.
Well,
but it's shot in a way where you could very easily just have a guy walk around it and like blah blah blah. But I don't know. It's interesting.
I think it speaks to something where it's almost kind of like a postmodern ghost stories or things like that, or like when I think about this story in general, when to get ready for this, I like looked up different I typed in ghost stories that I've heard, and then I tried to find like their roots and trace it back as far as I could. And this was the only one that I typed in where like I couldn't really find much like that was like this. And then I remembered it's like, okay, at the time I was told this story, it was probably like 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. And what else was a big thing back then was zombies. So it's like zombies started whenever zombie
This
movies.
is a zombie ghost for sure.
It's a zombie ghost.
It was like
because
Shaun of the Dead kind of like that era,
like
right?
That kind of thing. High energy zombies. Like before, zombies were just kind of like this, but then like to have like high energy running zombies and stuff like that. Or a zombie that would slam itself against the thing. That feels. Yeah. So I wonder now. I'm like I bet that story was the zombie twist on it that makes it a little different from like a traditional Civil War ghost story where it's like there's some lights out in the woods, or the lights turning off and on in a house, or the unsettled spirits from the Civil War.
So here's something that kind of turned my head in the realm of am I trying to define ghosts? I don't know. Probably. I heard this story, and I don't know how credible it is, but like when we die, there's a huge burst of electromagnetic energy that can be measured. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, okay, who's measured it? I haven't seen it. I can go past hearing that. So this Gettysburg area, because listen, I'm wearing my Guar shirt tonight because I recently went to Richmond, Virginia to.
Oh yeah,
I worked on a Guar video, and like, they're fucking.
That's awesome.
One of the biggest bands out of there.
I just went to what's his name? Was it Dave Grecki? Is that his name? The singer.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just went to his grave not that long ago with my fiance. I took her to Hollywood Cemetery. There is it's not Hollywood Forever. It's Hollywood Cemetery, and it has like a president buried there. It's super old. It's been there for like 300, 400 years, but it's really pretty. But he's buried there. So there's like a whole. There's there's Guar Bar in Richmond, but then there's also his grave is like, it looks really crazy. It looks like a Nordic god is buried there. There's just so many people lighting candles and stuff.
Did a big ghost of like a giant cock like shoot cum all over you?
Oh my God, those are balls, ghost balls. But when I was there, I don't know shit about the East Coast. I forgot the Civil War has like shaped the East Coast, and like every state park is that, and everybody's got a ghost story. And these, there's all these people reenacting. So I'm like, could some reenactors be mistaken for ghosts because they're like passed out drunk in a field and then like woke up and they're walking home? Yeah.
It's funny. There was so my dad's from Connecticut, but we lived in Virginia. And when I played Little League, all the other coaches were like kind of local Southern dudes, and we were the only family that didn't have an accent. There was one weekend where my dad was in charge of scheduling all the games for Little League, and there was basically one weekend where we couldn't have any games because there was a reenactment, and all the coaches were like playing their
they're in it.
we're playing their ancestors in this thing.
Yeah.
But it was like one of those culture shock things for my dad. I think
Huh?
it's like,
What are you guys doing?
what?
But so one interesting thing I heard was like in that Gettysburg area, I guess there were a lot of ghost stories before that, because there was like a lot of death that happened there before with some First Nations people. And this is an interesting take that I would like to look into, but that whole area has got black granite bedrock, which has a lot of quartz in it. And so the whole idea is that somehow quartz crystals can store information. We use them to store information. And so maybe this death flash is so bright that it's an easy thing to be stored that could be replayed through these crystals.
Now you're talking my language. That's like the kind of thing that I can get behind.
And I'm like, so this area has more ghosts because of the bedrock.
Or just weirdness or whatever. Like there's a famous story in Hillsborough, North Carolina. There was an article someone wrote in the Bitter Southerner that's called We Salted Nanny. And it's about this like super haunted place that has all these crazy things happen, where the people that lived in this house like saw everything from like Native Americans to ancient looking spirits to Civil War soldiers to Revolutionary War soldiers. They just see everything. And then what they found out was that doing research, that there was a pathway alongside it that had been there since like prehistoric times, that not only humans but animals had been using since prehistoric times, this pathway there. So it's like just this history laden, concentrated land. I totally believe that something in the soil I don't know how
right?
or what the science is. But
look at the biggest places where death happened. Are there ghost stories there? Are there 9/11 ghost stories? Like I kind of, maybe there is, but I guess not a lot of people were working that day. But I'm trying to think of like big tragic moments that don't have ghost stories attached.
It's like, do you only feel that if you're flying a helicopter through the airspace where it used to be? Yeah, I don't know. Like that's interesting. I don't know. Really quick sidebar. Do you know this about Wilshire Boulevard? That Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles, where the La Brea tar pits are, that apparently has been a roadway since prehistoric times. Like woolly mammoths would walk exactly along that path that now Wilshire Boulevard is on. And
that's cool.
Yeah, that also makes sense why the La Brea tar pits are right near Wilshire.
I mean, it feels like the elephants shouldn't have walked straight into the tar pits.
Also, is it weird? It's the La Brea tar pits, but if you translate it, it's the tar pits. Yeah. La Brea means the tar.
The tar pit.
The tar pits.
Yeah, I always wanted to write a movie called The Happy, but it's just based in Los Feliz. Because that's what it means, right? Los Feliz.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know that Feliz Navidad means Merry Christmas. Doesn't mean Merry, but Happy like whatever.
There's no place in LA that has more confusion over its pronunciation than Los Feliz, Los Feliz. Yeah.
What do you say, Willie?
I started out saying Feliz. Hold on, I started saying it wrong on purpose to piss both sides off.
Well, then you can't help.
Feliz, Los Feliz.
Well, but you know the dumbest thing about it is then it turns out that it's named after a man, and he pronounced his last name Feliz a certain way. I don't know if it was. I don't even know the other
the Spanish like if you were speaking Spanish, the correct pronunciation would be Los Feliz. But
And we say Feliz.
I think a lot of people
And
say
I think what I read was, well, no, it's named after this guy, and he said Feliz, so it's technically Feliz.
Yeah,
But like, fuck you, because there's a Los in front of it. So like, I don't know.
it's confusing.
Las Las
Um,
Falas.
while we're talking about like regions and their types of ghost story archetypes, I asked the smartest person I know, ChatGPT. I asked it, what are kind of the archetypes of types of ghost stories that vary from region to region in the US? And it said some interesting stuff. So I want to throw this at you. So the South obviously has a lot of restless spirits of war and slavery. So it's like dominant themes are kind of like unfinished business, guilt, ancestral plans, and honor. And then typical figures are Confederate soldiers or enslaved souls or runaway slaves or haints, which is something I can get into later. But then if you move into places like the Southwest, you get more stories about UFOs and skinwalkers and desert portals. And the more dominant themes are about surveillance or displacement or shape-shifting identity. But whereas if you get to the Pacific Northwest, it's the themes are more about vanishing or wilderness mysticism or transformation. Or like if you're in Los Angeles, the thing we hear a lot about is like serial killers. I feel like I hear more stories about like the scary like campfire stories in California are more about like serial killers and a killer in the woods or a cult in the woods, mysterious cult in the woods than anything else.
What did it say about the mountain region? Like, because
Colorado, because
Yeah.
I knew you're both Colorado boys, so I specifically asked in Colorado, haunted frontiers, ghost miners, and mountain madness. So dominant themes are isolation, greed, nature's indifference, altitude-induced madness.
Mountain madness. I just laugh at that term. Like
Mountain madness. Yeah.
is that just what does that mean? Is that like
Mountain
cabin
madness?
fever?
Kind of. It's funny. Even before, I always had a theory in Virginia. Like I knew a lot of people that would go to Virginia Tech, which is deep in the mountains in Virginia. And this is just my personal belief, is that I noticed a lot of people would kind of lose it out there and then like move back home before they
Really?
I don't know why. I think it's just the isolation and mountains. But isolation, that could happen anywhere. But it was like a specific thing.
Right.
And my friend group, we used to call it the mountain crazies. It's like, oh yeah, he went to Tech and he got the mountain crazies. Now he lives back at home. I don't know. And I guess Colorado is like that on crack.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, for the miners and stuff. Yes, I don't know.
But I mean, well, Donner parties out there. I think it's people like going mad and having to resort to eating each other, that kind of thing.
right.
It says here, why is the legacy of gold rush towns, deadly avalanches, and remote mountain life fuel stories of those who came seeking fortune and never left physically or spiritually. And then the altitude and
So it's
wilderness
losers,
plays.
like loser ghosts. In Colorado, we have a bunch of loser ghosts who
I
just
think-
like did not do anything with their lives.
I was
No,
hoping to
I think
find
it's-
my life.
I think
Right.
it's
Finding
more
some
like,
gold.
I feel like it's like people taking a chance and then getting lost in the sauce and just not. They're like, there's nothing but mountains and no one's here to help me, and then the altitude also screws
And then
with
there's-
people and
Animals that can eat you.
animals that can eat you. It's just much dangerous, much more. Yeah, it's dangerous territory. So
I just think like this whole thing. I like that perspective that these communities are seeing the ghosts that sort of like represent them, or they're afraid of their environment in a certain way. Because I don't buy ghosts at all. Like I don't buy ghosts because, like you said, Wilshire should be crawling with wildebeest ghosts.
I will say the most ghost stories I hear are things like the Wilshire Bell or like in mid city or something. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of ghost stories that happen around there. Well, most ghost stories are like about like the Hollywood Towers or anywhere where Marilyn Monroe once lived. There's ghosts.
That's a lot of Black Dahlia stuff, but that's all
Yeah.
1920s kind of
Yeah, but that's like when LA happened. So it's like that's where most of your ghosts would be from. I remember when I first moved out here and people were like, "Oh yeah, this place is old. It was built in the 50s. It's super haunted." And I'm like, like this, it's like that is a joke. It's like and yeah, it's like we have stuff where like I had multiple friends who lived in houses that were field hospitals for the Confederates. And they would like, I remember this like one friend, his grandma would tell us so many stories of just her house. And there was one day where she saw a woman in antebellum dress just walk through and like nod at her, and then it just walked into a wall. And so she got a paranormal expert. She spoke to them, and they said, well, that would only happen if there used to be a doorway there. Otherwise, they can't just pass through walls. It has to be because there used to be an opening there. And sure enough, she like they figured out their old original floor plans, and there was an opening where she saw the this woman disappear through. I don't know if I necessarily believe everything she said, and sometimes as time goes on, I'm like, maybe she just wasn't mentally that great because she had a lot of stories of like seeing like Confederate soldiers and stuff. And but I also chalk up a lot of this stuff, I think, to like sleep paralysis. Because a lot of anytime someone says like, "Oh yeah, I saw a ghost. I woke up in the middle of the night," like my first thought goes to like, "Oh, you had a really great dream or a really super intense dream that."
But it's interesting though, if there was a doorway there and this ghost is walking through a doorway, like what does that mean for us? Like how do we wrap our heads around it? Like if we agree, okay, yeah, your grandma was it your grandma saw a ghost and walked into the wall where a door used to be, does that give it credence, and how does it change your life at that point? Or do you just continue to say, no, whatever?
I was terrified to go to their house because, and I would never stay the night there. He was like a good friend, but his house just creeped me out so much because every time we went there, she would tell us more ghost stories and like dude, so many. But the way she would tell them is she was also like a substitute teacher. So like I knew her as a substitute teacher. That was like a super chill, nice substitute teacher. And then for her to be like telling me like the most frightening shit I've ever heard in my life. Like she one time like walked into her kitchen and she said there were several bloody soldiers all just like sitting at her kitchen table looking at her, and that they had to like take her to the like hospital because she like couldn't collect herself. And so I'm like,
Fucking A, man.
She had
yeah,
the vapors.
yeah, she had the vapors. It's I don't know if like how much of that is, is that a in Celtic mythology they call them thin places where it's like maybe it's a place where the boundary between past and present and everything is just a little thinner than other places. Yeah, I don't know if that's a romantic concept or a scientific
It might be
concept.
romantic if you like the idea of, well, okay, so then you would have to look at it as like it's a recording, right?
That's
It's a recording
that's
of
sort of how I
time.
feel. Like
Right.
those are
But
the ghost stories I tend to believe.
here's the weird thing, though, is that we're doing the thing that describes how we make it sense culturally is we have to add science to it.
Yeah, that's our version of a ghost story.
So, yeah, and that's what I've been struggling with is like this idea that like I believe the things that have been told to me since I was a baby or whatever, but then you get older and you start to realize that like people have been lying to you your entire life. So why wouldn't they be lying about this? Because it's been lied to them. I'm not saying that they're doing it in any kind of
Malicious
like nefarious
or
way.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
but like I'm so closed off about ghosts.
Well,
But
it
like
makes
why?
sense.
Like why?
Well, it
Just
makes
because I've
sense.
heard.
I feel like you're because Colorado isn't necessarily the most history laden place. There's like frontier
Right.
history, and you have like Donner Party stuff and stuff.
Yeah, but that's up in the hills. Like we're from a town that like has none of that,
Yeah, but it's the same thing as like, my fiance is from Texas where she went to a lot of like tent revivals and evangelical stuff growing up.
Wow.
And so she doesn't know any ghost stories. Like when we talked, I was like, "Do you have any ghost stories?" She's like, "No, I don't have any." But she's from the middle of nowhere, Texas, where not a lot happens, but she had tons of possessions and
Yeah, and you're not supposed to believe in
possession
ghosts.
story. You're not supposed to, so possession stories and exorcism stories. Whereas growing up, it's like maybe I heard that stuff, but I never grew up in, I grew up Quaker, which is not like really a demon fearing religion. It's more like a let's all love each other kind of religion. So I've never been affected by possession stories. I just like don't buy them. So probably in the same way you don't buy ghost stories. Like if something really freaky happened, my first thought would go to like maybe it was a ghost, or but though I don't necessarily believe in it, but for other people they're like maybe that person's just possessed. It just depends what your cultural background is.
Yeah, I've never seen anything freaky. And if I did, I explained it away through science and the scientific method. I formed a hypothesis and I tested my hypothesis.
I've only had one thing happen to me that I just don't really have a firm explanation for, and that I put it in the category of maybe a ghost story or maybe an incredible coincidence, which is so I was living in this really old house in Wilmington, North Carolina. This is after college. I just spent a year in Wilmington, and then this house is from the 1800s. The house next to our house had this crazy history of where the servant living at that house had poisoned the family and killed them all.
That's awesome.
But the house next to us also, it was like, and I don't know exactly what year that was from, but it was from the 1800s. And it was also a creepy house because it burned at some point, and then the people that owned it just never fixed it. So it just sat there dormant, like half charred all the time. So I was in my house where I lived, and one time I'm downstairs and I'm waiting for my girlfriend at the time to get ready. We're about to go out somewhere. As I'm downstairs, I'm whistling that song, that song "In the Pines." It's like Kurt Cobain sings it on MTV Unplugged, but it's a song that I got from Leadbelly, and it's an old slave song.
It was either Leadbelly or Mudhoney, right?
It's like my girl, don't lie to me. Tell me where did you sleep last night? That song.
My girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's my Kurt Cobain. I think it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, you brought me right back to the 90s. But I was whistling that song. Then my girlfriend comes down and she's like, all right, I'm ready. And then so I stopped whistling. And then in my house, I heard the next 3 notes of the song whistle.
Oh, fuck.
In the house. And then so she comes down and I was like, did you whistle? And she's like, no, you were whistling. And I was like, I didn't whistle that last part. And then we looked at each other and we're like, okay, let's go. And we walked outside, and then the street light in front of my house turned off. And then we were like, oh my God, like that excited, scared it. And then we ran, and then I'm not kidding, the next street light went off when we went under it.
Oh,
and then,
dude, double
and then
goosebumps, man.
We went off and we were like, what was that? And I slept at a friend's place that night. It was, yeah, it was Kurt. But I mean, like
or it was a timer, did the streetlights work on a timer?
Well, yeah, the street light thing, maybe it's just so the Willy explanation of this is, of course, that's either some spirit from your house or from the next door neighbor's
electrical
house
interference, like
that heard you whistling a song. Music is obviously a big conduit throughout time, whatever. It was a ghost or someone. I happened to be whistling their favorite song, so they whistled it back. But then the Wade explanation, the best I can come up with, and it doesn't even seem likely because no one was in my house and no one was near my house, is that maybe someone like half a block away happened to hear me whistling this song and recognized it from the Kurt Cobain version, and also started whistling it in the same key as I was. And then I stopped whistling and I heard just the end of them whistling.
I could buy that part, but the 2 streetlights going out is fucking crazy.
How long has that song been around? Like,
it's since the 1860s. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been around a long time. So I mean, I could go into a whole thing about the origin of even that song too, of how that ties into other things. But
do you want to? I mean, we could take a break and end this episode, and then pick it up there.
I mean, it's up to you. I'm down. I could talk about this shit forever, but I mean, like,
I just think I do think
it's a good branch to go down.
It's a fun. I feel like music and ghosts is kind of a nice thing to talk about on the next, and that's the perfect kind of way into it. I don't know where it will lead, but it might be fun.
Hi, I'm Jason Gudasz. I'm a writer and filmmaker. I have a piece coming out in a thing that I can't tell you about until it happens because I feel like if I bring it up now, then it doesn't, for whatever reason, it doesn't make it to the finish line, then I'm going to be embarrassed about it. So just trust that 95% likelihood something's happening soon and I'm going to be excited about it. Aside from that, I made a short a few years ago that went to Sundance and it was called Place, and Willy was in it and he was a very fun part of it. Still in development on a feature version of that someday in the future. I'm getting hitched this year to my lovely fiance Ariel, an incredible person. I just did a thing for The Weeknd. The Weeknd came out with his movie, and so they did a weird video installation thing, and so like I created this whole surreal, bizarre video installation for The Weeknd. And that was fun. That's like the most recent,
Radical. What are your
most recent
socials?
relevant thing. Oh, sorry, my socials. I have too many socials. I'm Jason Gudaz. I also run a thing called Haunted Reviews on Instagram at Haunted Reviews, which is just I am verified on Yelp and I claim places are haunted. And so I tell kind of like mini ghost stories, basically surreal, funny ghost stories.
I love them so much, man.
Yeah, you're the only other Yelp elite person I know.
All right, thanks everyone for listening to Real Life Sci-Fi with Wade and Willy.
Give us a follow everywhere you follow everything. Well, Instagram.com/RealLifeSciFi, YouTube.com/RealLifeSciFi, and find us on Patreon because giving us a follow helps us out. We've got different tiers. $1 a month gets you an extra episode every week. $5 a month gets you 2 bonus episodes every week. And then $8 a month, you get that, plus you buy us a drink. And we do drink. Thank you.
And that's patreon.com/RealLifeSciFi. You can also reach out to us if you have an idea for a topic or a guest. Just email us, WadeandWilly@gmail.com.
And Willy is always with the Y, WILLY.
All right. Thank you, Kevin Day, for being our executive producer. Thank you, Schraub Home Video, for when is the video?
Yeah, you can watch the stream of this show at 4 p.m. Pacific at SchraubHomeVideo.com. There's a lot of shows on there. Usually starts at 2:30 Pacific, and then Schraub usually has a show at 8 o'clock at night.
Okay, well, thanks again for listening. And remember, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Real Life Sci-Fi.